Still single and broke at 32, Aunt Patricia laughed, her voice carrying across the entire Easter brunch table at the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, at this point, sweetie, maybe it's time to lower your standards. Beggars can't be choosers. The 23 members of our extended family erupted in laughter, completely unaware that my phone was buzzing with texts from Daniel Chen, CEO of Meridian Tech and the man who controlled 70% of Patricia's company's revenue stream, the same man who'd been sharing my bed for the past 18 months, the private dining room overlooked Boston Harbor. Its floor-to-ceiling windows framing a perfect spring morning that felt anything but perfect as my family continued their annual tradition of dissecting my failures. Patricia, the self-proclaimed success story of our family, held court at the head of the table in her St. John suit. Fresh from her company's record quarter, a quarter that existed entirely because of the contracts I'd helped secure through my embarrassing career as a technical consultant. Maybe if you'd spent less time with those computers and more time on your appearance, my cousin Melissa added, examining her fresh manicure. No offense, but showing up to family events in off-the-rack clothes isn't exactly husband-hunting material. I smoothed my simple black dress, the one Daniel had picked out for me in Paris last month, though he'd been careful to remove the Chanel label at my request. We'd agreed to keep our relationship private until the Meridian acquisition was complete, but sitting here, listening to my family tear apart every aspect of my life while my phone filled with messages from one of the most powerful men in tech, tested every ounce of my patience. At least she's consistent, Uncle Richard chimed in, cutting into his Eggs Benedict. Consistently underachieving, but consistent nonetheless. The laughter rolled around the table again, and I caught my mother's eye. She gave me that look, half sympathy, half disappointment, that suggested she agreed with them but wished they'd express it more gently. As if the delivery method was the problem, not the message itself. Speaking of achievements, Patricia continued, clearly enjoying her moment. We just landed another major contract with Meridian Tech. My team worked around the clock to impress their CEO. You wouldn't understand the level of strategy involved, Lily, but landing a client like Daniel Chen takes real business acumen. I nearly choked on my mimosa. The strategy she was referring to involved her team presenting my optimization recommendations as their own work. Something I discovered 3 months ago when Daniel had shown me their proposal in bed, laughing about how they'd copied my documentation verbatim. Meridian Tech? I asked innocently. That's impressive. Beyond impressive, Patricia preened. They're the fastest-growing tech company on the East Coast. Their CEO is brilliant, and single, though I doubt he'd be interested in. She gestured vaguely in my direction. Well, you know, men like that have certain standards. My phone buzzed again. Daniel, where are you? The Harrison deal closed. We're celebrating on the yacht. Need my brilliant girlfriend here. Excuse me, I said, standing. I need to take a call. Probably her boss at that tiny consulting firm, Aunt Patricia stage whispered. You know she can't afford to miss work calls. Every penny counts when you're living paycheck to paycheck. I walked to the hallway, answering Daniel's call. Hey, you. There's my favorite voice, he said, and I could hear champagne corks popping in the background. Tell me you're not still at that family thing you were dreading. Still here. My aunt's explaining how she landed your company as a client through superior business acumen. He laughed, that rich, warm sound that had first caught my attention at a cybersecurity conference 18 months ago. Is that Patricia Morrison from Morrison Solutions? The one whose team tried to pass off your network architecture as their own? The very same. God, I love you, he said, and my heart skipped despite hearing those words dozens of times. How much longer until I can steal you away? The terms of the acquisition specify that Meridian needs to maintain existing contracts for 6 months, but after that, you're free to choose better vendors. After that, I'm free to go public with the fact that I've been dating the actual brains behind Morrison Solutions' success. How do you think your aunt will handle learning that her biggest client has been sleeping with her broke niece? Daniel, I know. We agreed to wait. But Lily, listening to you tell me how they treat you makes me want to walk into that dining room and explain exactly who you are. My board just approved the consultant budget. You could work directly for Meridian instead of letting other companies take credit for your brilliance. We've discussed this. I want to build my own company, not be the CEO's girlfriend who got a cushy job. You'd be the most overqualified consultant we've ever hired. MIT graduate, 8 patents in network security, sole architect of 3 Fortune 500 infrastructure overhauls. Stop, I laughed. Your bias is showing. My bias is completely justified. Come to the yacht. We'll sail to the Cape, have dinner at that place you love in Chatham. Your family doesn't deserve your Sunday. Soon. I promise. I'm holding you to that. By the way, did Morrison Solutions submit their Q2 proposal yet? Supposed to be tomorrow. Why? Just wondering if they'll try to pass off any more of your work. I've had my team comparing their deliverables to your consulting reports. It's illuminating. Daniel, you can't, I'm not going to do anything. Yet. But when our contract comes up for renewal, there might be some very specific questions about their team's actual capabilities versus their borrowed expertise. When I returned to the dining room, the conversation had moved on to cousin Melissa's engagement to a hedge fund manager. The 3-carat ring was making its rounds, accompanied by appropriate oohs and ahs. "See, Lily?" Aunt Patricia said as I sat down. "This is what happens when you make yourself marketable." Melissa understood that appearance and social connections matter. "I'm happy for you, Melissa," I said genuinely. She'd always been the kindest of my cousins, even if she'd absorbed the family's values about success. "Thanks, Lily. Maybe you'll meet someone at the wedding. I could seat you at the singles table." "That won't be necessary," I said quietly. "Oh?" My mother perked up. "Are you seeing someone?" The table went silent. 23 pairs of eyes suddenly focused on me with the intensity of sharks scenting blood in the water. Yes. I've been seeing someone." The silence stretched for another beat before Uncle Richard laughed. "Let me guess. Another struggling consultant? Or maybe someone from your online gaming group?" "He's in tech," I said carefully. "Of course he is," Patricia rolled her eyes. "What startup is he failing to launch? Please tell me he at least has a real apartment and not some commune situation." "He has an apartment," I confirmed. "Also a penthouse in Back Bay, a house in the Hamptons, and that yacht currently floating in Boston Harbor, but who is counting?" "What's his name?" my mother asked, hope creeping into her voice. I hesitated. Once I said his name, Google would do the rest. "But Daniel and I had agreed, it's complicated," I said finally. "We're keeping things private for now." The table erupted. "Complicated means married," Uncle Richard declared. "Or imaginary," someone else suggested. "Oh, sweetie," Patricia's voice dripped with false sympathy. "We've all been there. Creating fantasy boyfriends to make ourselves feel better. But you're among family, you don't have to pretend." "I'm not pretending." "Then why the secrecy? Unless." Her eyes widened with malicious glee. "Oh my God, are you a side piece? Is that why he won't go public?" "That's enough," I said sharply. Touched a nerve, did I? It makes sense. Some executive notices the IT girl, has a little fun, keeps her hidden away. Tale as old as time. My phone, sitting face up on the table, chose that moment to light up with a text. Daniel's contact photo, a selfie of us at sunset in Santorini last summer, filled the screen along with his message. Changed my mind. Sending the helicopter. Be ready in 20. Patricia's eyes went wide. She'd recognized him, of course she had. His face had been on the cover of Fortune the previous month. "Is that?" She couldn't finish the sentence. I picked up my phone calmly. "Like I said. It's complicated." "Daniel Chen," she whispered. You're dating Daniel Chen?" "Dating seems like such a limited word," I said, standing. "We've been together 18 months. We spend most weekends together. He's met my friends, I've met his board of directors. We have a trip to Japan planned next month." "That's impossible," Patricia's voice cracked. "He would never. I mean, you're broke? Single? Embarrassing?" I gathered my purse. "Or maybe I'm the woman he fell in love with at a cybersecurity conference where I was presenting on network vulnerability. The one whose optimization protocols he implemented across Meridian's entire infrastructure. The one he calls brilliant roughly 12 times a day. But the contracts, Morrison Solutions, built on my work. Which Daniel knows, because I told him. Which his lawyers know, because they've reviewed every proposal. Which will become very relevant when your contracts come up for renewal in." I pretended to think. 5 months and 3 days, I believe? Patricia had gone pale. The entire table sat frozen, watching her world recalibrate in real time. "He wouldn't end contracts over personal." "Oh, he won't end them because of me," I assured her. "He'll end them because once he's no longer bound by the acquisition terms, he'll be free to ask why Morrison Solutions' capabilities seem to have dramatically decreased since their consultant. What was it you called me? Oh right, broke and single, stopped providing detailed documentation." My phone buzzed. The helicopter had landed on the building's roof pad. "That's my ride," I said. "Thank you for brunch. It's been illuminating." "Lily, wait," my mother called. "When will we meet him properly?" I paused at the door. "Mom, you've spent 32 years watching this family tear me apart for not meeting their standards. Why would I subject someone I love to that?" "But family shows up," I said. "Daniel shows up. He celebrates my wins, supports my ambitions, and has never once suggested I lower my standards. That's my family." The last thing I heard. As the door closed was Uncle Richard's voice. Did she say helicopter? The ride to the harbor was brief but cathartic. I texted Daniel, en route. Fair warning, told them. His response was immediate, finally. Champagne's waiting. So is the acquisition paperwork for your new company. Did I mention you're brilliant? Only 12 times today. Day's not over yet. When I arrived at the marina, Daniel was waiting on deck, his Sunday casual look, jeans and a Harvard rowing team t-shirt, somehow making him more attractive than any suit could. His face lit up when he saw me, the same way it had that first night in San Francisco when I'd corrected his keynote math in front of 500 people. There she is, he said, pulling me into a kiss that tasted like champagne and promises. The woman too good for Boston's finest family of snobs. They're not all bad, I said, letting him lead me aboard. Just limited in their perspectives. Limited. That's generous. He handed me a glass of champagne. How's Patricia handling the revelation that her biggest client is sleeping with her biggest disappointment? About as well as you'd expect. She looked like she was calculating contract values in real time. Good. Maybe she'll treat the next brilliant consultant with more respect. He pulled me against him. Though preferably not too much respect. I'd hate to have competition. No competition, I assured him. Though you should know they think I'm your side piece. Interesting. Should I send them the documentary evidence of our relationship? I have that PowerPoint from last Valentine's, the one where you calculated our compatibility rating using machine learning algorithms. I think that might kill them. Their loss. It had animations. We sailed out of the harbor as the sun climbed higher, Boston's skyline glittering behind us. My phone buzzed periodically, family members suddenly very interested in my life, but I ignored them all. You know. They'll tell everyone, I said as Daniel steered us toward open water. By tomorrow, every tech blog will have some version of this story. Let them, he said. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of you dimming your light to make others comfortable. You're brilliant, beautiful, and mine. If people have a problem with that, they become former vendors. I was going to say, they can adjust their perspectives, but your way works too. That night, as we anchored off the Cape and watched the stars appear, Daniel pulled out a folder. Speaking of perspectives needing adjustment, your incorporation papers. Chen Consulting, LLC is officially registered. Your first client is ready to sign whenever you are. My first client better not be Meridian Tech trying to give me a sweetheart deal. Your first client is Boston General Hospital. They need their entire network overhauled and specifically requested that brilliant woman who fixed mass financials disaster. Apparently, your reputation extends beyond your family's limited view. Daniel. I'm just the messenger. Also your biggest fan. Also the man who's been waiting 18 months to post those photos from Santorini without pixelating your face. The ones where I'm fixing your server configuration in a bikini. The ones where you look like a goddess while explaining why my encryption protocol was garbage. Very specific aesthetic. I laughed, curling into his side as the boat rocked gently. Somewhere in Boston, my family was probably deep in emergency discussions about Patricia's contracts and my sudden value increase. Tomorrow would bring questions, gossip, and probably some awkward apologies, but tonight, I was exactly where I belonged, with someone who'd seen my worth long before it came with a famous boyfriend attached. Someone who understood that being single at 32 wasn't a failure if you were waiting for the right person. Someone who knew that being broke was relative when you were rich in all the ways that mattered. Hey, Daniel said suddenly. You know what would really scandalize your family? What? He pulled out his phone, snapping a selfie of us with the sunset behind us. Posted, he announced. Caption, 18 months with the brilliant woman who keeps my network secure and my heart racing. Hashtag taken am proud hashtag she's the real CEO. My phone immediately exploded with notifications. You're ridiculous, I told him. Ridiculously in love with you, he corrected. And finally free to tell the world. Think Patricia will screenshot it for her next presentation on strategic relationships. Only if she wants to explain how she missed the strategic relationship right under her nose. Her loss, Daniel said, kissing my temple. My gain. Boston's tech scene's gain once you launch your company. Though I should warn you, I plan to be your most demanding client. Demanding how? I'll expect regular updates. Detailed documentation. Frequent in-person consultations. Probably some overnight debugging sessions. That sounds less like a client relationship and more like a man who knows the value of keeping brilliant women close? Guilty as charged. As the stars reflected on the dark water and my phone continued its notification symphony, I realized something. I hadn't lowered my standards. I'd simply waited for someone whose standards matched mine, someone who measured worth in kindness and brilliance rather than designer labels and family connections, Aunt Patricia could keep her contracts for 5 more months. After that, she'd learn what happened when you confused quiet confidence with weakness, when you mistook discretion for poverty, when you assumed that being single meant being unwanted. Some of us weren't broke. We were just selective about where we invested our assets, and some of us weren't single. We were just private about our treasures until we weren't.